Okay, so let's jump right in. There's an image from these letters that
Right off.
it immediately tells you everything about the person we're talking about today.
Oh, I know exactly which one you mean.
He describes seeing his own business cards scattered in the mud, and he says they look like little white tombstones for the very tiny dead.
It's so absurdly poetic, but it's perfect. It's the whole story in one sentence. Ambition, failure, and this flair for the dramatic, even when he's at his lowest point.
Exactly. So for our deep dive today, we are focusing on this one incredible character, a man who calls himself Professor Harry Ransom.
And all our source material, everything we're going through, comes from this amazing collection of his personal letters. He's writing home constantly to his three sisters, May, Sue, and Jess.
And he's writing from this place called the Western Rim, which, well, it's a lawless, violent frontier territory in the middle of a massive war. And he's there trying to be an entrepreneur.
A disastrous entrepreneur, mostly. And that's what makes the letters so good. You get this split personality. Publicly, he's the Lightbringer, this brilliant, confident inventor.
Right.
But privately, in the letters, especially the ones to his sister Jess, you see the anxiety, the desperation, the hunger, and you see him constantly trying to justify the, let's say, the morally gray things he has to do to survive.
He's a scientist, an inventor, a visionary, and let's be honest, he's a con artist. He's always on the move, chasing this grand dream of something he calls perpetual light.
And always writing home. It's this constant cycle. Big idea, big promises, big disaster, and then a letter home explaining what went wrong.
So our goal here is to really unpack this guy, Harry Ransom. We want to look at the world he's operating in, this incredibly volatile Western Rim, and then trace the chain of events that takes him from his usual small-time cons.
And drops him right into the middle of a real high-stakes spy operation on this mysterious, almost mythical hill they call Big Witch.
It's a journey that connects, of all things, electric light, engineered rain, and something much, much older. And it all starts with him being just a little too proud of his professional title. So we have to begin with that title, Professor Harry Ransom. But the key, and he's very specific about this in his letters, is the quotation marks. He prints them on his business cards.
Right. And you have to ask, why do that? It's like announcing you're a fraud from the get-go.
But in his mind, it's the opposite. He writes to May that he's nothing if not honest, and that he never claims to be anything I'm not.
So the quotes are his version of honesty. By putting them there, he's technically not lying. He knows he doesn't have the credentials, so this is his little ethical loophole. It's buoyant, in a way.
It's a total contradiction. He's being meticulously honest about the fact that he's a fake, which somehow lets him sleep at night while he runs these incredibly shady operations.
And the presentation, the marketing, it's all part of the game. The business cards themselves are a work of art. He mentions the lightning bolts on either side.
An extra flourish he had to pay for, he notes.
Yeah. Of course, at Tally's Printers in Melville City. And then under his name, you get this list of credentials. Lightbringer, licensed and by appointment.
Which he admits to his sisters were, quote, not exactly true.
Not even a little bit true. But then he follows it with the one thing he actually believes in. Inventor of the ransom process for, et cetera, et cetera. That part is real to him. That's his core identity.
But the cost of this professional image, it's staggering. He bought 250 of these cards.
And to pay for them, he and his assistant, Carver, went hungry for a week. A whole week without food.
He's literally starving himself to project an image of success. It says so much about what's actually important to him. It's not just the science. It's the performance of science.
And Carver, his silent, loyal assistant. Harry notes he has a never-complaining loyalty. He's just there, suffering alongside him for this dream.
So what exactly is this dream he's selling? What is the ransom process?
It's electric light. But he doesn't talk about it like an engineer. He describes it in these almost religious terms. He calls it lightning and like God himself in a bottle.
He sees himself as a kind of prophet, bringing this divine power to the dark, forgotten corners of the world.
And the ultimate promise, the thing that gets people to invest their money, is perpetual light.
Right, this is the hook.
It's unlimited energy. He claims that once his apparatus gets going, it runs on itself, spinning and spinning like the sun. He tells investors it'll pay for itself in under a month just by saving them money on candles and lamp oil.
It's an impossible promise, but on the rim, people are desperate enough to believe in the impossible.
But the machine itself, the apparatus, is real. It's just fragile and very secret. He refuses to describe it fully in the letters because he doesn't trust the mail service.
Especially not when it's run by the line, the very authority he's trying to avoid.
But he gives us hints. He talks about shining glass, copper coils, and, crucially, very expensive and rare acids and alkalis. These components are valuable, which becomes a major problem for him.
And the reason for all the secrecy is that the status of his patents is, as he puts it, questionable.
Which is a polite way of saying they don't exist. If he tried this back in the capital, he'd be shut down in a day. The Rim is the only place he can operate.
And that lawlessness brings us directly to the disaster, the incident in wherever it was, as he calls it.
Hikima, he calls it wherever it was to downplay the trauma, I think.
He's all set up. He has investors ready for a demonstration.
Sure.
And then the line shows up.
And this isn't the first time. He mentions this is the third time it's happened. There was Clone and Melville City before that. Harry seems to attract this kind of trouble.
The description of the line's forces is terrifying. It's all about their machinery. Motor cars that roared and threw up dust and smoked.
And the aerial threat. He talks about 2 of their heavier-than-air vessels overhead with iron wings a-clatter just circling like vultures.
The detail that really stands out is the smoke. He mentions the oily black smoke multiple times. It's the signature of the line.
It's such a great contrast, isn't it? Harry is trying to create this clean, perpetual light, and the authority shows up and blankets everything in dirty industrial smoke. The whole war is right there in that image.
And their violence is so casual. He writes that one of the motor cars just deliberately swerves and plows right through his apparatus.
Smashing the glass, tearing the coils, and all those rare, expensive acids just spill out into the mud. Gone.
The loss is total. The apparatus, his wagon, his horse, Sasha, his savings, everything wiped out in minutes.
Which brings us back to that opening image, the business cards. His entire professional identity scattered in the dirt like tombstones. He says he was just frozen, paralyzed with fear until a linesman pointed away from him and the shock sort of rebooted his system.
But the most important part, I think, is the debate he has with himself right after. He actually asks himself if he's going in the wrong direction in life, if he's pushing against a door that's meant to stay closed.
For a moment, he considers that maybe, just maybe, he's the problem.
But only for a moment. He immediately dismisses it. He concludes it's just bad luck, the risk of doing business in a wartime border country.
And that justification is key, because if it's just bad luck, he doesn't have to change anything. He can just pick himself up and do the exact same thing all over again. The cycle can continue.
You have to wonder, though, is it really just bad luck? Or is the line following him for a reason? His work involves rare chemicals, questionable patents, and gathering crowds of potentially seditious people.
He's a disruption. His light might as well be a beacon for the authorities. He thinks he's bringing perpetual light, but what he's actually creating is perpetual trouble.
And that's exactly what sends him on the road again. He and Carver, with nothing but the clothes on their backs, walk for 4 days.
80 miles, he estimates, until they stumble into a town whose name is just a perfect cosmic joke.
The town of disorder. So he arrives in disorder, a complete wreck, and writes to his sister Sue from this place called the World's Edge Hotel.
And he's already back to his old tricks. He has no money, but he's managed to negotiate 2 weeks of room and board.
Oh.
With a promise, of course. He tells the owner he'll install the very first electric light system in the hotel just as soon as he fixes his apparatus.
The same apparatus that's currently a pile of scrap metal and chemical sludge 80 miles away.
Exactly. But before we get to that deal, we need to talk about the town names on the rim. It's a fascinating detail he includes.
Right. He says they fall into a few categories.
You've got the names from the local folk language, words like clone or kunko, which apparently mean things like go away or how dare you.
A not-so-subtle message to the settlers.
Then you have the optimistic names, the ones taken from religious texts to try and, attract good fortune, increase prosperity, that kind of thing.
And then you get the random ones, the ones that seem to defy any logic at all. Right. Mischief, shellfish.
And disorder. Harry, being a man of science, insists the name means nothing. It's just an arbitrary word. But the place itself seems to live up to it.
The hotel, the World's Edge, sounds awful. He says it's only 10 years old, but it already feels like a ruin. It's huge, empty, full of dust.
And the decorations. This is a key detail. Ugly dead animals on the walls, and trophies stolen from the hill folk. Stone steers, flat rocks carved with spirals and triangles.
That's a huge piece of foreshadowing, isn't it? The town's relationship with the indigenous folk is built on theft and dominance. He says seeing those stolen artifacts gives him a chill.
And that underlying tension is amplified by the constant grinding reality of the war. The Rim is an active war zone between the line, the authority, and the people they call the agents of the gun.
And the line's presence isn't subtle. Harry sees them roughing people up, cuffing kids, lining women up against a wall. He says they shoot at buildings just to remind everyone who's in charge. It's a regime of terror.
And the surveillance is constant. He mentions that while he's writing his letter, one of those heavier-than-air vessels flies right over the hotel.
And it triggers that same feeling he had back in Hikima.
Exactly. He describes it as this palpable fear, like you have done something terribly wrong for which you must be punished. It's psychological warfare. It keeps everyone scared and compliant.
Meanwhile, the official propaganda paints the agents of the gun as just common criminals, thieves and murderers and bandits.
But Harry admits he feels some sympathy for them. He sees the whole war as senseless. He even lists the rumored weapons both sides are using: poison gas, rockets, noisemakers. It's a brutal, high-tech conflict in a low-tech place.
And we find out the line is in this area for a specific reason. They're hunting for someone connected to an incident at the hospital, so their heightened presence isn't random.
Which, in a way, retroactively explains why they were so quick to smash his apparatus. They're on high alert. Anything out of the ordinary gets crushed.
So on top of all this violence and fear, the town's economy is collapsing.
Yes, there's a severe drought. The farms are failing. Everything is turning yellow, and there's no business. The town is dying on the vine.
And he points out the irony that just a few days north, back where his machine was destroyed, it was raining just fine.
It just shows you how chaotic the weather is on the Rim. He says it's always up for renegotiation without warning. And that kind of instability, that desperation, is the perfect environment for a man selling miracles.
Which brings us back to the hotel owner, Mr. Adams. He's short, bald, and desperate. The perfect mark for Harry.
Well, maybe not so perfect. Adams isn't actually interested in the promise of light. He's a pragmatist.
He sees the raw materials.
Precisely. He's looking at the brass, the copper, the zinc, the gold, the valuable chemicals. In a dying economy, salvage is worth more than a future promise. He tells Harry straight up, 2 weeks, and if you don't do what you said you'd do, I keep your apparatus.
It's a trap.
A total trap, and Harry knows it. He writes to Jess that he may have misled Mr. Adams, but his hunger and exhaustion wrestled his conscience down. He chooses survival.
And then Adams closes the trap. He casually mentions that his wife is the mayor and his brother-in-law is the sheriff.
Checkmate. Harry is stuck. He can't run. He has no legal recourse. He either produces a working light machine from thin air, or he loses everything he doesn't even have yet.
And the town's culture just adds another layer to this. They're getting ready for their big celebration, Founding Day.
Which is all about celebrating their survival against the wild folk of the woods 400 years ago. They've built this whole stage with painted trees and high walls. Harry calls it a morbid religion.
It's a culture built on fear of the indigenous people.
And that deep, institutionalized fear is the exact vulnerability that the next person to walk into town is going to exploit. Harry, the Lightbringer, is about to meet his rival, a Rainmaker.
So, just as Harry is trapped by this deal with Adams, a new player arrives in town, a man named Mr. Flood.
The Rainmaker. And Harry, our resident con artist, smells a rat immediately.
It's the name, isn't it? A Rainmaker named Flood. It's a little too on the nose.
That, and Harry says his demeanor reminds him of the wild boys his sister Jess used to hang out with. He recognizes the type. It's professional recognition.
And Flood's pitch is simple. For $300 plus expenses, he guarantees he will bring rain on or before Founding Day.
It's a classic scheme. High stakes, big promise, and a ticking clock. And he has his own version of the apparatus, this thing he calls the pole.
Which Harry immediately clocks as just a big lightning rod, a repurposed piece of industrial tech.
Of course. So 3 weeks go by. No rain. Flood is racking up a huge bill at the hotel, and he needs an excuse. An escape plan.
And this is where he shows his genius. He doesn't blame his equipment, he blames the local bogeyman.
The hill folk. He claims the folk up on Big Witch are using wild magic to interfere with his device's subtle vibrations and keep the clouds away.
It's a brilliant move. He's tapping directly into the town's 400-year-old paranoia. He's weaponizing their founding myth against them.
And because they're so desperate they buy it completely, it fits perfectly with the morbid religion of their Founding Day celebration.
But Harry sees right through it. And what's interesting is that he decides to intervene, but not out of rivalry.
No, it's something closer to professional pride. He sees Joe, the store owner he's fond of, crying because of the drought and Flood's failure. And that makes him angry.
He writes that no scientist should ever say there is nothing anyone can do. For a moment, he's not Harry the hustler. He's Harry the believer. He genuinely believes in finding solutions.
So he steps in, he claims to have knowledge of the folk, which is a complete lie, of course, and offers to go up Big Witch and negotiate with them.
This leads to this very public, shouted argument between him and Flood. Classic Rim-style negotiation.
Which ends with a new deal, a 50-50 split of the $300 if Harry can get up the hill and solve the folk problem.
Flood agrees, but he says he's coming along to protect his investment.
Sure.
And that he's not taking his eyes off this cheating son of a bitch.
But Harry notices two things, two critical tells. First, he realizes Flood wasn't actually angry during the argument, he was performing.
The whole thing was a setup to get Harry up that hill.
Exactly. And second, he sees Flood's hand twitch towards his belt, where a man would normally keep a gun. And that's the moment the game changes. This isn't just about a con anymore. Flood is dangerous.
So they start the journey up Big Witch, and the landscape itself is immediately hostile.
Sharp rocks, no trails. And Harry has this weird realization that the hill is bigger than it looks from the town. It's playing tricks with perspective.
He writes, "This is what happens when you start on the edge and go west of it, of course, as everybody knows."
It's this piece of local folklore that his scientific mind can't really process. The world is literally not behaving according to the rules he understands.
And even as he's climbing, he's still thinking like a visionary. He dictates this letter in his head to a linesman officer.
It's amazing. He's basically asking, why are you fighting this stupid war when you could be using all your machines and resources to dig channels and bring water to these people?
It's so naive, but it's so purely Harry. He still believes technology should be used for good.
But that naivete is about to be shattered, because Flood decides it's time to tell Harry the truth.
This is a huge moment in the letters. Flood holds up 4 fingers.
4 truths that are going to destroy Harry's entire understanding of his situation. The first one, Harry, the great observer, has been walking past folk markings carved into the rocks the entire time and hasn't even noticed them.
Flood tells him, "You think too much, you don't see what's really there." A brutal assessment.
Truth number 2, those engine noises they heard the night before. That wasn't just a random patrol. That was the line arriving in disorder, following Harry from Akima.
He's been leading them right to Flood. He's the beacon.
Truth number 3, they are completely hopelessly lost. The hill is actively tricking them, expanding around them. Harry's map of the world is useless here.
And the final truth, the one that changes everything.
The folk are already watching them, and that's when Harry finally gets it. Mr. Flood isn't a rainmaker.
He's an agent of the gun.
Yeah.
A spy. Murderer 100 times over.
And he's been using Harry, this dumb but not that dumb inventor, as his ticket to get up Big Rich, to meet someone or find something. Harry didn't just walk into a con, he walked into the war.
So at this point, all the masks are off. They're on the hill. The line is closing in from below, and the folk are watching from above.
And Flood just lays it all out. He admits he was just waiting in disorder. His bosses sent him there to meet a contact to come out of the West.
So the whole Rainmaker thing was just a cover story.
A very elaborate one. He says he needed a way to stay in town in style without raising suspicion. And he says, lying is what we do. It was good practice.
He's almost proud of the deception.
He is. He even says he was surprised the town took their stupid founding day fears so seriously. He just threw the folk in as an excuse when he ran out of time. He had no idea it would work so well.
But then it gets personal. Flood says he thinks someone in town ratted on him to the line.
And he vows that if he gets off this hill, he's going back to disorder to settle the score. He even mentions Joe's name.
Which gives Harry a very powerful, very personal reason to make sure Flood does not get off this hill.
Exactly. The stakes are suddenly life and death for people he cares about. And that's when the line's vessels get closer. You can hear them circling, their shots getting nearer to the peak.
This is when Flood comes up with his desperate plan, the identity swap.
It's tactically brilliant. He forces Harry to take off his clothes and put on Flood's, while Flood puts on Harry's iconic white suit.
The linesmen are hunting for the agent of the gun, but all they know is that he's with the recognizable guy in the white suit.
So now, Harry Ransom, the Lightbringer, becomes the target. Flood becomes the decoy, using Harry's own flamboyant identity against him.
But before they can even put the plan into action, a third party intervenes.
The folk. A long red wood spear with a stone tip just flies out of nowhere and hits Flood in the shoulder.
Blood on the white suit. The folk have made their choice. They're not targeting Harry. They're targeting the man pretending to be Harry.
In the chaos, Harry stumbles. He blames Flood's ill-fitting shoes, and he falls into a pit.
He says it seemed natural, but also perfectly designed to trap someone. And he's down there for about 9 hours, just writing these frantic, desperate letters in his head.
Now, this is where reality completely breaks down, the time distortion.
Right. Because when Flood finally finds him again, he's terrified, bleeding, and he's convinced he's been hunted by the folk for a week or more.
9 hours for Harry, a week for Flood. They experience the same event in two completely different time frames. It's impossible by any scientific standard, Harry understands.
Time on the edge is just different. It's not linear. It's not reliable.
Flood is broken. He begs Harry for help, saying the folk only left him alone when Harry was near. So Harry, now in the position of power, agrees to lead them up to the peak.
And the peak is something else entirely. It's not just a mountaintop. It's a city made of carved rock.
Every single rock is carved with these glowing patterns, red spirals, loops, triangles, geometries that I do not have names for. It looks like a city at night.
He's a man who deals in technology and things built quickly for profit. And he's looking at something that must have taken 1,000 years to create.
And then they're cornered. The folk appear. They're tall, bone white, long-limbed. And he notes they look completely different in their own element. Not like the broken workers he saw down in the town. These are beings of power.
Flood panics. He shoves Harry forward and tells him, "Tell him to let us go or else."
So Harry does the only thing he can think to do. He defaults to his own programming. He panics and becomes the salesman.
He reaches into the pocket of the white jacket Flood is wearing, pulls out his very last business card.
Smiles and just says, "Hi."
It's the most absurd diplomatic gesture in history.
But it works. The folk woman takes the card, and he describes her fingers, her long, long fingers. And this is maybe the single most important detail in all the letters. He notices she has one more knuckle than a human has.
One extra knuckle.
It's the physical proof. These beings are not human. They operate on a different biological and, as we've seen, temporal level. It explains everything.
And she looks at the card, and he says he feels like she understands everything all at once. The con, the dream, the war, the light. She gets it.
And she smiles.
Then Flood screams. Harry closes his eyes, and when he opens them, the folk are gone.
Just as the vessels from the line reappear and open fire, but at that exact moment, the rain starts.
Not just rain. A torrent. A whole sea got upended over the peak.
And as Harry noted earlier, those vessels can't fly in a heavy downpour. Their advantage is gone. He sees one of them crash.
The Rainmaker's promise fulfilled, but not by Flood's machine, by the folks' intervention.
Harry just runs. He slides down the muddy hillside and crashes through the painted trees of the Founding Day stage.
Where the townspeople, seeing this man in Flood's clothes, think he's one of the folk. Mitch Adams yells, "One of them! Get him!"
He's almost lynched by the very people he just accidentally saved. But Joe recognizes him and saves him, and that's when he asks what day it is.
And finds out that 2 weeks have passed. He lost 2 weeks of his life on that hill. So Harry makes it back. He survived Big Witch, he escaped the line, and he actually gets the money.
All $300. The town pays him for ending the drought.
But his conscience is just eating him alive over it. He writes to Joe, confessing that he did not really do it. He has no idea what he did up there.
He says all he did was blunder about and do my best to do my best. He's a scientist who just witnessed a miracle he can't explain, and it bothers him.
And this is where he comes up with his working philosophy for living on the rim. The important thing is not always to understand, but to do right and be happy.
It's how he justifies everything. The outcome was good, the town got rain, Joe is safe. So the confusing, dishonest methods don't matter as much.
And he immediately puts that money back into the cycle. He buys a new wagon, a new horse,
and starts building a better prototype of the apparatus. He also, very tellingly, sets aside half the money plus interest for Joe as a way to clear his conscience.
But the real key to restarting the cycle is the return of Carver.
It's amazing. Harry is in the next town over, Black Ankle, and he puts out an ad for an assistant. And Carver just shows up.
Harry is desperate for answers. He demands to know what happened, where he went, but Carver, as always, is silent.
He just smiled and looked wise. Carver is the anchor, the one constant in Harry's chaotic world.
And he's the one who can actually make the science work. Harry notes that Carver is good with the apparatus and that the new one works better now than ever.
So Carver is the engineer who rebuilds the machine, making it stronger after every single disaster.
And the money follows. That initial $300 quickly becomes $600. Thanks to new investors in Black Ankle who've heard the story of the man who made it rain.
He gets a new white suit made. The entire operation is rebooted, but bigger and better than before.
And he has this moment where he reflects on it all. He compares the movement of money on the rim to light or rain clouds or people. It's all just energy flowing from one place to another.
And he's back on the road. The letters end with him in the town of whatever it's called, getting ready for the next demonstration. The cycle begins again.
He is perpetual motion. He is the living embodiment of his own invention. When you step back and look at all these letters together, what's really striking is this bizarre intersection of all these different forces.
Absolutely. You have Harry's personal ambition for his high-tech perpetual light, which drives him into this lawless area.
And you have Flood's deception as a rainmaker, which is just a cover for his role in this very real, very violent war.
And the Town of Disorder's own cultural paranoia, their whole founding day myth, is what makes them vulnerable to both of these men.
But the decisive force, the one that resolves everything, is the ancient time-bending power of the folk on Big Witch. They're the ones who actually control the outcome.
They see the threat, the agent of the gun wearing the Lightbringer suit, and they neutralize it. First with a spear, and then with a perfectly timed downpour that grounds the line's air support.
It makes Harry Ransom this fascinating figure. He's a complete fraud who ends up telling a deeper kind of truth. He's a scientist whose greatest success comes from a place that science can't explain.
Think about that final act of negotiation. He takes a business card, this tiny symbol of modern individualistic capitalism, and hands it to a being with an extra knuckle who exists outside of our concept of time.
And she gets it. And by doing that, he accidentally triggers this major incident, gets a spy killed, crashes an airship, and he still doesn't really understand how.
He got paid for bringing the rain. But maybe the folk weren't making it rain for him. Maybe they were just using his identity as the perfect decoy to take out their own enemy. The payment was for services rendered, services he didn't even know he was providing.
So we leave him right back where he started, just with more money and a better machine. What does that mean for his future? What's the takeaway here?
Well, we know the line is always hunting for agents of the gun. And we know the agents are always waiting for someone to come out of the West.
And Harry, just by being himself, by handing out that business card, became the catalyst that brought them all together on that hill.
It really makes you wonder, what if Harry's true invention isn't perpetual light at all? What if it's perpetual trouble?
He's not an inventor, he's a catalyst.
Exactly. What if his real function on the rim isn't to create sustainable energy, but to constantly disrupt things, to kickstart conflict, which leads to destruction, which then leads to renewal and new investment? He's the engine of the rim's chaotic economy.
That $300 didn't buy him a fresh start. It just bought him the parts for the next inevitable disaster.
And consider this. Every time his apparatus is destroyed, he and Carver rebuild it better. The progress is fueled by the destruction. So maybe the secret to perpetual motion on the rim isn't in his machine. Maybe it's in him, in this unending cycle of spectacular failure and stubbornly optimistic renewal.
A constant disruption funded by the debris of the last one. Something to think about, I guess, the next time you see someone trying to sell you on a future that seems just a little too bright to be true.